Perfect.
You are perfect.
Yeah, no, really.
You working tonight?
Yep. After this I immediately go to work basically.
Oh my God, what time do you have to work?
Um, Technically, let me double check. Around 9ish, but I go
Oh,
two.
that's not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but I go 2 hours early.
Cool. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, let me just pull this right up right away then. Love the direction you're headed in here with this chapter. You had a question here about
Yeah, which one of those sounds better for me? Is internal dialogue.
tell me how you see this playing out. Well, so he's after he swallowed the last of the corpse, he licked the man's clothes and floor clean, but he was still starving. He wanted more.
Yeah, no, this is just crazy talk of him being starving.
So it's just him sort of like, what can I eat next?
Yeah,
Can I do?
this is just so like trying to wig out the reader that he's like completely crazy and he's going to eat people.
Mm-hmm. The thing I like about the second one is not that he would eat cheese and chips, but that to him, this is like me eating, like the idea of relating to the audience, where if you're just trying to show him go crazy,
Mhm.
make him think things that I think when I'm hungry. And then I'm like, he sounds crazy, but I know what it's like to get that hungry. Um, it says like to me, it would be like, this was what humans must feel like when they were stoned, right? Like go for the obvious. Like for sure, some of your readers are stoners, and you'd hope so. It was like, you know, if this was anything what it was like to smoke a joint and sit and play video games, he understood humans more than he thought he did, like or something along that line, right? And so you're pandering to the audience by doing that, but that's an absolutely, I would give big thumbs up to do that.
Okay, so second one it is.
I love it. And maybe just reference like, you know, throwing in some thoughts about when humans would be that hungry and your audience, video games and pot or whatever else. Um, okay, the only big notes I had here, and
Wow,
I
that's a
think,
lot of big notes.
yeah, it's actually not. It looks like a lot of things, but it occurred to me this part of the scene has always just never made the kind of sense I think you want to make with it. And then it occurred to me, oh, all you have to do is rearrange who's saying things, is my suggestion. So here's what I mean. No big radical change even required, because it has never rung. Two things have always made me feel really weird about this scene, not because it's a bad scene, I love the scene, but because of the way the conversation goes. Number one was the whole the Alhoon thing and Julius not knowing about it, which you started to address, which is awesome. The other thing is, even more to the point, is that, wait a minute, I'm supposed to believe that Julius is a great agent. You mean to tell me that Matthias told him that there's this thing called the Alhoon coming to destroy the Earth, and he never bothered to look into it before this
That's
conversation?
Yeah, that happened like 6, 7 hours ago, and we
Yeah,
spent most of that time sleeping.
totally fair. And that might be enough, but my suggestion is, even without that, the logic might go better this way. So I'll just throw this at you, see what you think. Um, Starting at the bottom of this page, and this is Remy talking, obviously. Um, Oh, wait a minute. There is something else, though, according to the subject's bank statements. Is that Remy talking or Julius?
Remy, she's the one
Perfect.
who's going to do all the digital stuff,
I love it.
all the
So,
lawyer stuff.
so Remy's saying this is perfect. There's something else, though. According to the subject's bank statements, he's been buying up large quantities of gold and silver in local pawn shops. Along with his recent activities, it suggests that he plans to go off world. Period.
Mhm.
Is the way I would do it. He plans to go off world. Period. Um, Question is, where's he going? Or perhaps more importantly, why? He's got everything he needs right here. Have Remy ask the question rather than Julius, and here's why I would propose that. Something along this line. The real question is, where's he going and why? And then I would have Julius, think about it. Julius thought about it, then jogged something from his memory. Rather than Matthias having said, yeah, the Alcoon are coming and destroy the Earth, make it more cryptic, which is more fun, where Matthias says, yeah, you know what? Matthias said something to me that I just didn't think much of at the time, but now I'm wondering. He said the Alhoon will soon make short work of us all, rather than he's coming to destroy the Earth, which
Well,
is so
technically, he never
overt.
said he was going to destroy the Earth. He said he was going to enslave the planet. I just,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So you had Matthias claim that something called the Alhoon was coming to destroy the Earth.
yeah. What's the word? What's the word when you misquote someone because, like, it's generally just more cliche the way you say it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm just throwing this out there. I think either he's coming to destroy the earth or he's coming to enslave the human race. If I'm Julius, there's nothing else in any amount of time. I don't care if it's hours or days. That's something that I'm going to sort of run by somebody ASAP, and I'm not going to bring it up incidentally. Oh, yeah, he said something about nope. To me, it makes way more sense if Remy says, what's really weird is that he's going off world. And now, if what Matthias said to him was more vague and cryptic and more kind of mysterious, then it makes sense. Two things. It makes sense that Julius might have just ignored it because it was just Matthias being Matthias. But it's always the case, usually in stories like this, that something that seems innocuous and meaningless at the time, when somebody says something new and there's a new piece of information, suddenly that same thing that seemed meaningless before suddenly goes, boop, oh, hang on. Matthias did say something about the Alhoun were going to come make short work of us all, or something along that line, really cryptic. Does that mean anything to you? Now Remy's reacting, going, oh, my God. That can't be true. I mean, Alhoun territory is like light years away. Julius says, slow down, Remy, hold on. Back up. Who are the Alhoun? And how don't I know about them? Well, they're a spacefaring species. The BPA has listed them as a non-threat after we describe all the description of it. Julius goes, whoa, non-threat? Sorry, let me recap, Remy. They have psionic abilities, superiority complex, and an eldritch army, but the BPA in their infinite wisdom has decided they're not a threat. Not so far. Well, it sounds like our friend Matthias might have a different opinion on that. And by the way, you want to bring me up to speed? So in other words, I'm taking everything you have and simply reconfiguring it, where instead of Julius saying, why is he running? Have Remy say, what we don't understand is why he's running. Then when Julius brings this up, rather than Remy saying, did the subject mention any reason why he might be leaving the planet? I wouldn't have Remy ask that. I would have Julius bring it up. It makes him look smart. Now he's pulling out something that he heard before, that maybe this is a clue. Now Remy and him are putting their pieces together, and you still get to have your cake and eat it too. Minimal change if you were to go with that. But I think I would that would be my suggestion, is to reverse it like that. And then now it starts to make sense why Julius didn't think that what Matthias said before was particularly relevant, and now he does. It makes more sense that, Remy might, she's trying to figure it out, and rather than Julius goes, so why is he running? He's going to answer the question anyway, so have him answer the question. That might be how. Then to me, you get rid of all of the things where the audience may be going, I just don't buy that Julius heard this. I don't care how long it's been or whatever else was going on. Same thing in next scene, by the way. That's going to be my suggestion when we get to the scene that follows. When he goes in, the Mexican standoff, and it's the three of them, and it's the big fight. Unless I missed it, I kept waiting for Julius to answer the obvious question. If we have an extinction level event, potentially, we don't know that yet, if I'm Julius or Remy, but he's leaving. He said something about the Alhoun. Having to me, Remy might say, well, we didn't think they were an issue. I mean, they're light years away. Maybe the Earth is cloaked and they can't see. I don't know, whatever logic you want to use. We never thought they were
just extreme distance and literally everyone else picking a fight with them.
Absolutely. So the key now becomes what Matthias is saying. If the whole idea was, they don't care about us and they're a long ways away, and yet Matthias has said something to suggest they're actually not a long way away, this is really, really important. So to me, from this point forward, if I'm Julius and I wasn't concerned before because of what Matthias said, because it was kind of cryptic and I didn't really understand it at the time, but now maybe what he meant was we're fucked. Right. Then when he goes to confront Julius or Matthias at his house, I would imagine Julius now has two prime directives. One is to stop Matthias, but that now is relatively minor compared to the much more important thing, which is Matthias, I need you to tell me whatever it is I need to find about the Alhoun, because this has become an Ella. This has become a potential Ella. This is like in Deep Impact or Armageddon. He has to be the smartest guy in the room, Julius. And if he's starting to even if Remy is kind of writing it off because she's an angel and she's emotionally ambivalent, you want me to love Julius, have him notice the obvious. that if this is true, if some species I just heard about might be on its way, and no matter what Remy says, oh no, they're miles away, they're not really a threat. They're not. Julius doesn't buy any of that. If Matthias is right, Julius, I would assume, is smart enough and experienced enough to know that there's nothing else in his life right now that is more important than answering this question. Would be sort of the response that I would have. Then when you get down to this, when he comes down here, you look angry. Are you angry? You just broke your phone. Well, I just found out that racist sonic aliens might be invading my planet, and I don't know anything about them. Yes, exactly. He just found out the most important thing. So everything else just took a back seat to that. That does sound upsetting. Remy, you little tit. I need to find Matthias and get to the bottom of this. Please tell me you have an address. I would assume what would come out of his mouth, if he's a good agent at all, is I need to find Matthias and get to the bottom of this. And you and the BPA need to literally stop everything you're doing and start looking into the Alhoun to find out if this is actually a threat. And if they don't do that, or Remy says, don't worry about it, then that still needs to be in the story. Because to me, 100% of your audience, this is the thing that
added in a sentence there, email everything we have on the Alhoun to Daphne, including...
Yeah, 100%.
I should also mention that when we come back to talking with Daphne about this, the BPA is, like, as an organization, not going to deal with this.
Okay, perfect. So if they're not going to deal with it, the audience needs
cuts.
Not because
the audience... I don't think it's an actual threat, but because of budget cuts.
Perfect. I love that.
That is going to be the running joke of why the BPA doesn't do things, budget cuts.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. So Julian, I'll have questions about that later. But with Julius, this is good. So to me now, what you've done, is not only have you clarified the story. This is my favorite chapter so far, because now I'm starting to understand what the story is, and now I'm starting to see why Matthias and I'll see Ramona. I know why Julius, why Remy, why who all these characters are. This whole story just went and became super clear to me, even though I have a million questions in this chapter. So now I'm 100% with Julius. I think, okay, you're my guy. You took care of her. You're a saucy man. I love you for your sauce. You took care of Ramona. You got some trauma to do with previous people that you're trainees, but Julius just got the news of a lifetime. There's no news in his life he's ever had more potentially important than this, in my mind. So everything else takes a back seat. So if later on the BPA are going to not take this seriously, that needs to be a major topic of conversation. I can't wait to see it, because Julius sounds like he's currently the only one who knows or gives a shit. Mm-hmm. And so if he's going to continue to be that, I love that, Hayden. If that's who you're giving me, is a guy who may be the only one who's taking this threat seriously. Classic hero. People love that person. You've seen it in a million movies, and I love it. So I'm 100% on board.
To be clear, like, the BPA does take the threat seriously. Again, they just can't do anything about it because their bosses, the governments that they report to, don't take it seriously.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're going to need to get into all that with the governments, because that we just need to go up the chain with that. That's the story. Then the story is clearly whatever else is going on, doing whatever it takes to get to the people who will release the funds to deal with this.
Yeah, up until like season 4 or 5, the BPA will be constantly underfunded and understaffed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So, and I would assume that they're only being underfunded because the people in positions of government don't really understand or believe that there's a threat.
Well, and the threat is like relatively minimal. Like, remember, there's not that many paranormals out there, and since Earth lacks so much magic, there's like a very limited scope with what they can do with that. So even for them, the worst case scenario, most SWAT teams could handle it.
Could handle the Alhoun?
No, could handle like whatever normal problem the BPA deals with.
Right. Okay. So I love that because that sounds like there's an issue either because usually in movies or shows like this, it's one of two things. It's they either don't have the ability to withstand the threat, or they don't have the information necessary to realize how severe the threat really is. So if that's the case, then it would make sense. That's to me, that would be the only rationale world governments would have for not putting all the money they have into fighting the Alhoun. They either don't believe it or they don't understand how real the threat is, or they simply don't know about it. So that would make sense. So the end was the only thing. This part here, my suggestion, this whole bit with the beautiful angel, my suggestion would be put it at the beginning of the chapter or save it for a later chapter, because right now it's a bit of a dramatic buzzkill. You bring us all the way to this moment. I need to find Matthias and get to the bottom of this, and the BPA needs to start putting this on their list right away. Boom, end of chapter. Because this whole bit is, I love it. It's adorable, and it makes no sense to me now, because it's just you've got such a tight chapter, and what it does is it neutralizes the impact of dramatically what was happening. How do you feel about that?
Mixed feeling. On the one hand, I kind of like it because it kind of gets rid of the tension that was at the end,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice on the one hand. On the other hand, what you said it isn't inaccurate. Also, I'm not really sure where else I can put this. This is kind of
Yeah,
like a
totally
Remy
fair.
Julius moment, so there's nowhere else to really put it.
That's totally fair. So my suggestion is the last thing you want to do is get rid of tension with an ending like that. You've made it better than it was before. I think that's part of the challenge is you've got such a good chapter now. The last thing, it's like, like I like joking around with people, but if somebody says, "Hey, there's a man running through the streets killing children," I'd be like, "Oh my God, we need to get out there right now. Can we tell a few jokes first?" No, bye, and I'm gone. Right. So it's just is that serious to me that it felt weird to do this. But I think you can do it totally up to you. I think you can throw it lots of room at the beginning. Like if you make it like I love the idea that he thinks he has to call her angel and sort of unlock her to be able to, be on her good side. That all sounds like beginning of conversation stuff, 100%, because it tells us who she is. It sort of gives us a sense of what their dynamic is and sort of how she works and stuff at the beginning when we need that information, rather than the end where we not only don't need it, but we don't want it. We want to move on to what Julius is going to do next. That would be my feedback on that.
Okay,
I
so
hate I hate to say that because I know this is important to you.
maybe nitpick a little, have her demand affection and stuff at the beginning when he's asking for information, that type of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, just trying to go back up here. Yeah, like all of this. Hello, Remy, and nice to hear your lovely voice. Um, it seems so. I like it there because it's getting in the way of the investigation in a fun way. Like he's like, okay, I'm getting some information here, and it's sort of like, Remy, you beautiful angel. Like that makes a bit more, because to me at the end, if
Mm-hmm.
he's telling her what to do, then it makes sense. Like at the end, not telling her what to do in an authoritative way, but at the end, if she's saying like, what am I called again? If I'm Julius, I'm saying angel. Now call the fucking BPA. Okay, we don't have time to dick around right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I love that. I love it if you put it earlier. Food for thought. Food for thought.
So
Otherwise,
yeah,
I think you're really close to
basically
that.
shuffle some wordplay there, and maybe put some of Remy's neediness earlier. Did you like what I did with all the computers in that chapter? Like how they kind of
Let me just pull it up again. I loved what you did with a lot of this chapter. I read through the whole thing actually too, just to sort of get a vibe of anything else you may have. You just pull this up. Remind me what you're referring to specifically.
just search computer screen. Should show up. I have no idea where it actually is, so down computer room. Nearby computer screens, the third one. Or fourth one.
Here we go. Yeah, exactly. That's the stuff. That's the stuff I love. Yeah, and that makes that introduction of Remy with the the arcane language and Angel even better.
Mm-hmm. I'm also going to have, like, anytime Julius is talking to her show up on a screen somewhere, little chibi Angel on a TV screen while she calls him in a movie theater.
It's awesome. No, that's really fun. Yeah, I think you're really close with this chapter. I mean, you've got such a great flow. Now, I didn't do more than give a quick look at Mexican standoff because I spent over 30 minutes had to on that previous. But let me just see. I did have some responses right away, and let you know before I went into this, knowing what was happening in this scene. So the first thing I did before I read the scene, I do this often with scenes, is I thought to myself, okay, whatever else happens in this scene, I'm assuming I'm going to get answers to, or either get answers to some of these questions, or see some of these things happen. It could happen in a later chapter, but I would sort of assume it because I know this is the convergence of Julius and Matthias and Ramona. So I'm liking the way this starts. The big questions to me were, again, just to repeat what I said about the previous chapter, if I'm Julius coming out of the last chapter into this moment, there's two imperatives, and for me, they're in this order. Stopping Matthias, which used to be my number one, but has very quickly become a very distant number two. Mm-hmm. And number one, what's this about the Alhoun? Did we just discover that we have a meteor heading to Earth, in which case we all have to stop everything we're doing and find out what that's about? Number two, I want, especially having left the hospital in the previous chapter, with her on her way to Matthias without any clear idea of why she's going. Assuming you didn't change when I find him, I'm going to bash his head in or whatever. I need to know why Ramona's here, her reasons and motivation. Otherwise, she does run the risk of just being kind of an airhead character.
Her chapter ended with her wanting to get answers and to get revenge on Matthias.
Okay, love that. So she is in an interesting frame of mind that I'm assuming when she comes to this scene. And this is more, there's a general, one of the things I was going to look for too, is I know your tone has really evolved and matured in such, fun ways. In the beginning, you do what most writers I work with do. It's a lot of wah, 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 banter comedy, because they're fishing to figure out what the story needs to be. And how do you balance that with the drama? So for example, what I wouldn't want is another long fight scene. I would want a bit of that, but I would want to start getting into the meat of the story. So with that in mind, before I started reading it, he arrives there, and there's Ramona. So it's great. So she's there. Jesus Christ, what the hell are you doing here? Yep, good question. Can't wait to find out. Sorry, I nearly blew your head off. This is a vampire den. Again, same question again. What are you doing here? He never got an answer to the question. Okay, so that's potentially going to be a narrative problem, but I'll come back to that.
Well, he got an answer later, but the point was that was like the segue into him getting attacked.
Okay, perfect. So, fight. How hard is going to be to dig that up? Fight. This is a question. And you're more durable than your partner. Okay, so it's still a fight. It's going to be one of those days. Thrall, obey me. It's still the fight. Rosie thought Ramona hadn't been turned, but the display is super. Okay, so Ramona gets in there, but she still hasn't said anything. Let's see. Is there a chance he tried to eat me? Okay, but it's more than tried to eat her. It's turning into one of those days. Racing forward, more fighting. Toss Matthias through the window, it's more fighting. Pulling out a knife, more fighting. You've done goofed, more fighting. Sorry, I'm not technically human. I don't have more fighting. What are you? This is good. I love this case. So the bit where we see that Julius, this is exciting to me. The bit was seeing that, like, oh snap, Julius is, I'm just gonna say, superhuman, metahuman, whatever you want to call him.
Not
that
human.
is, yeah, I love
Homunculus, technically.
Perfect. So that is a cool, to see the extent of it and to hear it come up specifically in conversation. That's cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's mostly just Matthias vomiting blood.
Love it. Ava.
Who's Ava?
Who is A? I don't know who Ava is. Hang tight. Let me just see here. That's bizarre. How does she even have this? That's bizarre. Huh, I think she came in by mistake. That's a high school student that I have one-on-ones with. Bizarre. Anyway, I'm going to come back to this. Okay, so this is the $1 million question, page 4. Why do they have you scared?
Yeah, then a tree smashes in. Ramona kills Matthias. Julius, you know.
Oh. Okay, so it's a good, I mean, it's an interesting fight scene. Okay, so let me, okay, so there's no clarity provided. So the scene really is just, it doesn't really do anything for the story currently. It just gets rid of Matthias.
Yeah, pretty much, which is the next part in the story.
So what's the value? So story-wise, what are you hoping, what are you aiming for in a chapter where we still don't get any insight into the Alhoun? We don't know why, I mean, she's here because he tried to eat her, is what she says. We do find out a little bit about Julius having more power. So basically what my encouragement would be is that this chapter it's fun. It's definitely fun, but it feels like it's at about 50 to 60% of what it could be doing in terms of pushing story forward. Not that you have to answer everything.
It doesn't really need to push the story forward. It's just a fight scene. And like the point of the chapter isn't really the point of the chapter is to eliminate Matthias, get Ramona and Julius together, and then actually, oh yeah, and fill pages with fight scenes. That's it.
Okay. Well, if that's what you want to do with it, then I think that accomplishes that mission. I mean, it definitely is doing all of that. But I think my suggestion would be the audience has come, I think, from this point, chapter 8, the audience has come to expect that your chapters sort of do push the story forward. You haven't had a chapter yet that doesn't push the story forward. And I mean, that's the kind of the purpose of chapters, is to push story forward. And I think you can do all of that. I mean, this fight could be shorter and you could.
Well, part of the reason it's been dragged out is because, again, Matthias is a vampire, hard to kill, generation. I don't want to emphasize that point. Also, well, I will admit it doesn't answer a lot of questions. The next chapter is designed to answer a shit ton of questions.
Okay.
So the next chapter will be Julius going to Daphne, complaining about Ramona, like, talking about the Alhoun, getting shot down, that they aren't going to go after the Alhoun because the political parties aren't interested in it. And then he gets shipped off to Alaska, and he gets to the base to meet the team there, and then Ramona's there. And then we go from her perspective in the chapter after that about how she joins the BPA.
Okay. So right now, I'm just giving you my impression, and I'm just one audience member. Right now, Ramona doesn't feel like a real character to me. She feels like somebody, every scene we've had with her so far, she's reacted almost like a child to everything around her. Like, oh, powers, and oh, I can eat things.
That was kind of the point.
Yeah, I think I don't think that's going to work with modern audiences today, to have your only major female character, just especially one with superpowers, to sort of walk through scenes with. She comes across as a bit of an airhead. She looked like she was going to be growing and developing, and like that hospital scene really kind of started giving a sense of, okay, this is a young woman who's starting to come into her power and realize what it is. She's not going to change overnight. but she's at and then but the very next scene is she's looking through the hospital for her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend's address so that she can go see him. We don't know why, and when we do find out, it's because he tried to eat her. um that's true, and that would be part of the reason that she would be interested in seeing him. But I would invite you to maybe give a little more depth to her character, because right now she's just sort of seems to be led by feelings and impulse and
Well, she's
not much more.
18, so
Yeah. So if the message you're sending to the, because whether you intend it or not, Hayden, basically what it's going to be, you're going to be signaling to the audience. As a writer, I believe this is what 18-year-old women are like. And you may say like, oh, that's ridiculous, but that's exactly how people tend to read characters like this. Um, Plus, you just, even if you're not saying that about a woman, if you're just saying that about 18-year-olds, like she just doesn't seem to have any goals or anything at all. With Julius, I sort of get the idea that he's at least Julius. I don't have much more information about Julius. I don't really know a lot about him either, but I do know that at a minimum, he's discovered this thing like about the Alhoun that he doesn't understand and that he really desperately needs clarity on. If I was in this, see, the Mexican standoff, the most important thing about this scene to me is what finally comes up on page 4. But we don't get anything. Like, in other words, it's in a 6-page chapter. The most important thing doesn't come up until page 4, and then it doesn't even get addressed after that. I don't mean it doesn't get answered. I mean it doesn't even get addressed after that. It ends with like, if I'm Julius and I didn't get the answer to that question, and then Matthias dies, if it was me, I'd be like trying to stop like this. If it was me, okay, I'm going to start from scratch. To me, what would make this scene interesting is that here's the convergence of the three. Julius desperately needs to make sure Matthias doesn't die, even though he ultimately still needs to stop him. He's in a shitty position because now, and this is what we love about stories like this usually, is I really need to kill Matthias, but I really need to make sure I don't kill him because he may have the clue to the most important thing humanity needs the answer to right now. So he's already got a bit of a shit sandwich if it's just him and Matthias
yeah,
going head to head.
and now
How do
Ramona
I,
showed up and kind of screwed the pooch.
her being there, oh my God, her being there would be the worst thing that could happen to Julius at this moment when he just needs clarity. That's where I thought you were going with this. That's the whole reason why this is interesting to me, is that Julius would be in this awkward position of trying to somehow subdue and control Matthias while stopping Ramona killing him, because the moment she kills him, he's fucked. And so are we all. Like, if Ramona kills Matthias, Julius has to lose his mind. He's like, you dumb, stupid bitch. Like, you just maybe killed the only person who knows what can help save the human race. He's not going to go, well, you want to go get some chips, or whatever else like that. Like, that's the thing. That's the only thing that matters. I think that's where your audience is going to be focused. Why are they focused there? Because you focused them there in the last chapter. You went into this chapter where, as a reader, the only thing I care about is getting clarity about the Alhoun. Everything else is secondary. That's what this so that's what I'm saying is the chapter is currently burying the most important part of it. So that's what I would technically do. Is this is all fun and the blood and the I'm not technically human. That's all, fun stuff, but it's eclipsing the actual story. This is what I'm saying. You can't afford, in my opinion, I'm just being dogmatic here, but you can't write a book and have a chapter that's just fight scenes and not pushing the story forward. Every editor in the world will ask you to cut this chapter because it's not doing anything otherwise. It's just killing Matthias. They'll say that doesn't deserve a chapter. Put that in another chapter then, where story is actually happening.
Well, to
But
be fair,
now,
Royal Road Rules is a little different because chapters there are generally tend to be a lot shorter, and some fight scenes are like 4 or 5 chapters long.
yeah, Yeah, and unfortunately, so this is me being judgmental now, not a royal road, but the number one complaint that publishers, real legit publishers and platforms have right now is all of the things on the internet where people can just platform their stories and they'll take anything. And they don't care about the quality and the story and the narrative flow. I have no idea if this is true for the site you're on though, but
It's more or less true.
their big complaint right now, the publishers, is it's killing potential writers who think I can just put anything up there, and you're different. You're obviously taking the
Well,
time
no,
to make
like
sure.
you can't just put anything up there because you'll get rated 1 star and your story will be tossed to the bottom of Royal Road forever.
Right, but it turns what they tend to do, and this is what the publishers were saying, is it tends to turn writing stories into popularity contests. In other words, it's not about whether it's well written and whether it will still stand the test of time and people will want to read it in 5 years, as if it gets enough clicks and reads now. And I think with something like, especially a chapter like this, and plus, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't want to just write stories now and then you're done and you'll just throw it where anybody will take it. You're too good for that, Hayden. You're too good of a writer to just take whatever you can get. I mean, I'm thrilled that you have this opportunity to throw it up and do it, and I'm not trying to throw a blanket on that, but your writing is so strong when it's strong that a chapter that comes along and just as a fight scene and doesn't push story forward, it feels like an old piece of cloth on a new jacket. Anyway, with this, you don't even need to change much. All you have to do, my suggestion is, what makes this scene, you can have your cake and eat it too. Make this a fight scene, make the whole thing a fight scene, but the dramatic story thing in the middle of it is Julius desperately can't allow Ramona to kill him. The last thing that can happen in this scene, it would be better if Ramona died than Matthias died. How awkward is that? Ramona, like, if I'm Julius, and if I have two guns, like if we're all staring at, like it's an actual Mexican standoff, if you have a scene where we're all, pointing our guns at each other, do you know who I'm not going to shoot? I got one on Matthias and one on Ramona. I'm not shooting Matthias. I'm shooting Ramona. And I feel terrible doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's expendable. He is not at this point. So that's fun. So then when she does kill him, maybe he's about to explain it, right? Like maybe he's about to say, and I would definitely give Matthias, like, he's like his, he says, the Alhoun, let me tell you all about them. Boom. And just as he's about to tell him all about them, she kills him. And he looks at her and goes, you dumb, stupid. Like, what are you doing? He says, he tried to eat me. He tried to eat you. Hey, 18-year-old with no goals. You just killed the human race. Anyway, food for thought. But raw ingredients, you got it.
Okay,
You've got
I was kind of going for that, except less yelling, more silent. I was considering having him punch her out at the end of the scene.
Oh yeah, like how fun is that? By the way,
handcuffs, punch to the gut, passes out. Next scene.
If this was a TV show, and I like Ramona and I like Julius, and they're both, but I know that they both now have conflicting goals. She's looking for revenge, which means she wants to kill Matthias. He's looking for answers, which means he has to keep Matthias alive, and they all converge, and they're all kind of super, more than just human. That's wicked.
So wait,
that is a wicked.
Are you
scene.
saying I should change the fight scene so they're all fighting each other?
I think this is Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America in the first Avengers film. That's
so
what
everyone's
this is.
Fighting each other.
It has to be that way. There's no way around it in this scene, because if she's there, she is getting in the way of Julius's mission. Mm-hmm. He thought if he'd never had that conversation with Remy at the end of the last chapter, fair game. Yeah, Ramona, let's take this guy out together. But that screwed him up. I can't just kill him now. I need the information. So yeah, I would definitely turn this into, this is Iron Man, Captain America, Thor.
Okay, I can work with that.
Plus, that would be wicked to see. Like, I don't want to see Julius and Ramona fight, but I kind of do. It's kind of cool. They're not fighting necessarily; they're just in a race for protecting it. Meanwhile, if Ramona, here's what I would definitely put it in. If Julius is saying we can't kill him, I can see Ramona feeling a bit, without the information, this is all happening so fast, feeling a bit betrayed by Julius. What do you mean you know what he did to me? Remember back in the hospital, you told me that you were there for me? Well, be here for me now. Here I am. You said if I ever needed you, I could call on you. Well, we're here. I'm calling on you. Let's kill this fucking guy. He goes, no, we can't kill him. He says, you betrayed me. No, 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 you don't understand. He knows something. Oh, he knows something. And he tried to kill me, so I'm killing. This could go on all day. And people would never get tired of it. Have fun with it.
Okay.
It's a wicked chapter. I think it'll be fun.
It occurs to me though
But
that
then,
while I agree with everything you said, that doesn't actually add that much to the story. It just brings like the emotional parts to the forefront.
yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
yeah. The only other thing that I would say, because the only story things that we definitely need to know, although I agree with you, you can postpone some of it, is we need to know what's going on with the Elhoon, and we need to know what's going on with Ramona. Right now, Ramona doesn't have clearly defined goals, and she feels a bit two-dimensional to me. You can work on that however you want. The Elhoon thing, all you have to do is, again, you can choose to actually have Matthias reveal something, and I would give maybe a clue, enough of a clue at least for Julius to be able to work with later, because he's going to get killed before he can tell him almost anything of real use about the Elhoon. But to simply reinforce that this is important to Julius, to reinforce and deepen the relationships. And so that's the way I would say the story is moving forward. Story doesn't always have to be about information being revealed. It can be relationships between characters deepened. But I do want more about Ramona at some point. I do want even a crumb about the Elhoon that Julius can grab later, and like he did with the last thing, he didn't think it meant much at the time, but maybe it's something he gives him. Maybe Matthias doesn't say anything. Maybe he gives him something. Maybe it doesn't have to be information. It can be a thing, right? Because what you're doing is you're giving Julius the opportunity to be Batman. You're giving him to be the detective I'm dying to see him be. He can take a tiny little clue and turn it into a big discovery.
Okay.
However you want to play with that.
Yeah. Well, I thought I already did that with the school eating chapter.
Yep. No, totally. Oh no, I think you got to keep doing it. You've done it. You've done an amazing job so far.
Like I said, this is like X-Files plus Supernatural. Yeah. It's more murdery.
Yeah, way more bloody.
I guess that also makes it Doctor Who-esque. Because like people die in Doctor Who like every single episode. It's not a Doctor Who episode unless there are at least 5 corpses.
Well, this is really great too, because and he doesn't need to be like, every chapter doesn't need to be like tons of detective work. It'd be one thing. What we had in the last one was important stuff that he saw at the school, and also the little bit of conversation with Remy where we got the Elhoon mentioned. Clues, like I would even have as a separate sheet, it may or may not be your style, a separate sheet. I would be tracking all the clues that he finds along the way, just to make sure you don't forget to connect something later, or take advantage of something that was dropped earlier. That's what detective writers and people who do the kind of story you're writing do all the time, is they just make sure they're tracking it. Great work, man. So I'll send you these notes. They are probably in your mailbox right now. Next week, I will be in.
Yeah, when is our next meeting going to be?
Ontario. So technically, it's it looks like it's supposed to be like Boxing Day, but I think that might be a bit tight for both of us. And I'm wondering if you would mind. It's Sunday today. Would you mind if we adjusted our time and met next weekend instead?
Oh, so you can meet next week. I was totally okay with just waiting until January.
Oh yeah, no, that would be, and that's sort of what I was going to suggest was
January 2nd,
basically January. Yeah, if we wanted to do it that way, and then we have next weekend off if that works for you, and I'll just bank the time. Does that work for you?
Sure. Well, I'm okay either way, because chapter school eating's going up on the 3rd, so.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to put this down here to January. Would you say the Monday's the 3rd? Is that right? Or the
Monday's
second?
The 2nd.
Second.
So we're not meeting next week. I assumed that was because. Yeah, next Sunday's Christmas. I just noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll make more sense to what I could have done is I could have met sometime, anytime, sort of like within the week. Next week, and I can definitely do that, but I'll be 3 hours ahead of you, and that'll create some interesting realities. So
yeah, let's just meet January 2nd.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds really good.
In the meantime, I'll just churn out the next couple chapters, like Julius and Pomona's next chapters. Okay.
Cool.
So see you next year.
Okay, so we'll see you next year.
Oh,
Take care.
bye.
Bye bye.